is Stephen Gregg, and I am the mentor for the masses. And today we're going to be discussing our event called You Can Success Summit. And I'm excited today because I have a friend of mine who I believe is going to be able to tell you a little bit about what he's been doing in his life of this journey of the direct sales industry. And me and Mike, we've gone way back, and he's been in this industry probably just as long as I have, if not longer. But I'm gonna tell you right now, his experience and his desire to help people and his background can really not only inspire you, but can give you some tips and some nuggets that I believe that is gonna be able to help you build your business or help you even make a decision if this type of industry is for you. Because one thing I can tell you right now, the direct sales and network marketing or small business and entrepreneurship industry is absolutely for everyone. I've been in it for 32 years. I've helped a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people around the world be able to generate lots of income over the years. But I'm gonna tell you right now, the gentleman you're gonna hear from right now has done the exact same thing. He's helped thousands upon thousands of people on multiple continents become successful and change their financial future. So I want you guys to help me welcome my good friend, Mike Z. Mike, you there?
I'm here, Stephen. Thanks so much for that great introduction. I appreciate it. It's amazing that we're still connected this way when we did business years ago. I mean, that's a long time ago we did business together, but we both stayed in the profession, and it's always great to be able to see one of my colleagues, somebody who I definitely enjoyed working with so much.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fun back then, back in the day when we were on the stage, and man, we rocked it up there in that company, and it blew up. I mean, it blew up, and so many people. I was talking to one of the guys today of that named Clinton. I don't know if you remember Clinton,
but
yeah, I remember Clinton. He's doing phenomenal. They just franchised their own business and everything right now, so they're doing really, really well right now. It's awesome. But so many successful people came out of that time from what we launched back then. So today, I want to talk about you, Mike. I want to let everyone here that's listening and that's watching this show today learn about you, because I know you've been in this industry for a long time. So maybe if you can give them a glimpse back in the day of how you started, what caused you to get involved in the direct sales space, because I know you're a pretty buff guy. I remember back in the day. I'll let you tell your story, but you have a background there, so I'm sure some people can relate. So maybe you just share with them your background, a little bit about who you are, what you've done, and how you got to the point where you decided to get involved in this industry.
For sure. Well, thanks, Stephen. It goes way back to where I grew up. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is not so much a steel town anymore. I know a lot of people think it still is, but there's not a steel mill anywhere there. And, growing up there, we had the great fortune of making great friends, and there was a lot of family time. It was usually involved around sports, but my parents were educated, and they thought that really the best road for me to have financial success, certainly after high school, was to get some kind of post-education, whether it be a trade school, whether it be college, and really the name that I always heard was college. So in high school, I didn't really apply myself. I think that a lot of people, for whatever reason, apply themselves, and a lot of people don't. And I was one of those guys that pretty much never opened my book bag. When it went home with me, I took all the books home, and when I went back to school, they were still in the book bag. So, but I was a C student. I played football and really loved that, and weight training, and I was in martial arts for a great time. And about my senior year, I had to really make a choice of what I was going to do. And my dad says, listen, you have three choices. You can go to the military, you can go to college, or you can get a job, but you won't be living here. So of the three, I almost was in the military. I really thought that was going to be a path for me. I really took that seriously. And at the last minute, because I had been applying to colleges, I got accepted to a small school because my academics weren't, what a lot of schools want. And so I went off to college. In my first 2 years, I excelled. I made it more of like a game between me and the professor, who was going to be better at that particular class. I had to, in my mind, create some kind of game or challenge out of it, because quite frankly, when I was there, and I tell this story all the time, where I had an economics teacher. He used to drive. I used to see him leave school or the campus it was like a light blue, Datsun 210. It was like rusted out. And I'm thinking to myself, God, and he's the economics teacher. Like, if this is what I have to look forward to, I'm in trouble. I'm in the wrong class. And for me, again, the first 2 years was more of like a challenge. So I was able to be on the dean's list my first 2 years. Then I switched to go to a major university in Michigan. And when I got there, it really kind of started to set in. Like, I didn't understand how this post education was going to get me to how do I make money. Like, it wasn't a trade. I was like, I'm not learning how to fix an engine or how to fly a plane, or like what I was learning seemed so ambiguous to how that was actually going to equate to making real money. And so in the last 2 years, I kind of coasted. But at the same time, I started weightlifting, more towards bodybuilding. And, I did that when I first went to college and did my own personal studies in that and nutrition. And I was competing as a teenager through college. And then when I got to my senior year, I really worked to create the biggest show that I had ever been to. It was the Mr. USA competition. I had scouted it the year before, and I thought that I was ready. So, I finished my senior year of college, and a month later, I was down in Daytona Beach, Florida, where I had the chance to win the Mr. USA competition. And from that, I used that as a platform, kind of to use that notoriety, because I was on the Muscle Magazine, the Best of Muscle Magazine, on ESPN. I was in all the magazines, and I thought, okay, so I went to college, but this is something I really love. And I always felt that if I could do something that I loved, it wouldn't be like work. It'd be like having fun. And I think most people want to have fun with their career, but I know that today most people don't. They do it because they make a living. And I ended up getting a job through a friend. Ironically, it's usually who you know, not what you know. And a friend of mine was working for the world's largest sport nutrition company. It was a company called Cybergenics. And I became a spokesperson for them. Had a phone interview with them, and they knew who I was, and they liked the answers that I gave them, apparently, and I became, the spokesperson. So, I traveled around to different trade shows and store openings and PXs and commissaries and military bases. And I actually thrived on the ability to be able to educate people on that particular company's nutrition and how that could actually help them achieve, better results in fitness, better results in recovering from sports, or maybe they had injuries, and give them education on real nutrition and what that looked like and how that can prolong the life of health. And so I got a call one day, and they said, "Hey, would you mind relocating?" And I said, "Sure." I'd been living in Pittsburgh, and I worked with them for 4 years, moved to Southern California. And after I got there, I was there for about 2 months. I know 2 people in California when I moved there. But I figured, hey, it's the land of opportunity, I guess. And for me, I always, as a kid, wanted to live in California. I don't know why. I'd never been there as a kid. I just saw the palm trees and, people skating on the boardwalk. And I was like, that is so my lifestyle. And I moved out there and got myself a little place in Torrance, California. I was there for about 2 months when my boss called me up and says, "Hey, Mike, listen, I want to let you know that the company's been sold." It's okay. I was aware that was kind of happening. He says, "However, the new company that's acquiring you doesn't want your division." And it really took the wind out of my sails. I mean, it shocked me. It was frightening. It was frustrating. I was upset. I didn't know how to deal with that, because at no time ever, from my parents or my teachers or my professors in college, nobody ever said, "Listen, it doesn't matter how well of a job you do, you could get laid off for any particular reason." And I was always told, if you get a good education, then obviously the better education you get, the more job opportunities you can have. And if you had a good job with a big company, well, you'd have job security. And I really thought that was my life's work. Like, I thought that for sure I would stay in that industry forever because I just enjoyed it so much. When I got laid off, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, quite honestly. And I went out with a resume and went out with work experience, and spokesman doesn't really show up anywhere in any company. Now that I look back, I probably should have tried out for ESPN. I don't know, but being in Southern California, not knowing anybody, not having the contacts or relations that you wish you had. I knew I had a lot of them back in Pittsburgh, but there was no way I was going back. I was only going to move forward. And through frustration, I went home one day and I opened up the LA Times on my dining room table. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I saw an ad that said sports minded. And, I figured, okay, that's me. And I read an ad that said something like international, nutrition company or health and environmental company. That's what it said. International health and environmental company expanding in the LA basin, looking for 5 people motivated to make $5,000 to $10,000 a month. And I said, well, okay, that's where I need to be. Well, I didn't know California, as you know, Stephen. I was only there for a couple of months, and they didn't have GPS back then. I know that some of you watching this today might say, oh, I just put it in my phone. Well, there was this big catalog of addresses you could open up and find on how you get there. I forgot what it was called. I ended up in Downey, California, and Downey, California. Again, where they were, I didn't understand what that meant. So I walked into an office, and the lady spoke to me in Spanish. I thought to myself, I have to speak Spanish to get this job. I'm in real trouble. And she actually figured out I didn't speak Spanish and flipped into English pretty quickly. And as I looked around the room of candidates that were there, I was the only one dressed up in a suit, and everyone else was there. I was like, wow, I got this job. This is going to be easy. Because nobody else was dressed professionally. They were just, they were just casually. And then they herded us into a room. And they started describing to us what marketing was. They knew I had a marketing background. The speaker said, "This is marketing, isn't it?" I was like, "You seem like you're doing a good job. Just keep going." And I sat there as they began to explain an industry to me that I had never heard of. This is back in 1996. And I had never seen it before. And they started explaining how they take products from manufacturers directly to the consumer. And I was like, I didn't even know what that meant. I was never taught that. And they said, but we'll teach you everything you need to know to have success here. And I thought to myself, well, I've copied at times off of other people that had certain results that I wanted. And I figured if somebody was willing to let me look at their cheat sheet, if you will, and somebody would actually show me what to do, I could do it. And that was where I really got started in this industry. And it's been 24 years since that day. But I can tell you this, Stephen, I wasn't like a rocket ship, let me tell you, because I went in there with all these preconceived notions of what I thought I could do. And I would take a little bit of what they told me and put a lot of bit of me in there. And I thought, well, this is going to be simple. I've talked to people all over the country about how to sell nutrition and what nutrition's great for. I didn't know much about the environmental process, but I got an understanding there through a little education. And I was like, and I tell you, for my first 6 months, I was horrible. I mean, embarrassing. And, when you're a young guy and you move away from your entire family and you're talking to your dad or talking to your mom, they're going, now, how are things going? And you go, oh, they're going great, because you don't want them to have that fear that would certainly set in if you said, well, I took this job that I had to actually invest to get, and I haven't made any money in 6 months, but I think I'm going to get it. I think I'm going to be great at this. You can't really say that. And that's kind of where I was. I was always holding that in. And I figured that if they didn't know, I wouldn't hear from them how poorly I was doing. Because nobody wants to be in a new state where you don't really know many people and you have no money coming in, you're living off your savings. That's a frightening time. And I know that, certainly today, there are people in that exact situation, not because they chose it, but because 41 million people have been laid off in the U.S. alone. I'm not saying anything around the world. But at that time, it was a time for me to really say, okay, if I'm this bad, I'm clearly not listening to what they're telling me. And I went to a big training. There was a young guy came off stage, and we were the same age. And he says, hey, how are things going for you? I've seen you at other trainings. How are things going for you? I said, oh, they're going great. He goes, no, really, how are they going for you? I said, well, I have some people that were supposed to be here and they're not here, but I'm here. And so when I learn all this stuff, I'll just go back and teach them. He says, let me just do you a huge favor and cut a lot of time out for you, because I think you could be somebody that could do well here. Bring them here and don't buy their excuses. And he says, because there's always a sale being made, and you're either selling the need for them to be here, or they're selling you on why they shouldn't be. And when that finally sunk in, I said, wow. I said, you're absolutely right. And he says, just bring them to us. We'll teach them. But if you bring them to us and we teach them, they're better than you. It's okay here, because you brought them in. You'll make a small percentage off of how well they do. And that's kind of where a light bulb went off for me. I was like, wait a second. Let me get myself out of the way. Let me make them the influence, get excited about telling their story. Not Mr. USA, it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter what I knew. What they wanted to do was find out the person who was making the big bank. And that was the guy on stage. Those are the people who were making the money. So clearly, me driving it was a nice car, but it wasn't brand new. They were like, well, we want to go see them. And when I finally got myself out of the way and really showed people how to get to the expert, that's when my business took off. But for the first 6 months, man, it was tough. I didn't make a dollar. So, but after that, I've been really fortunate to be around a lot of great people. I've always stayed very coachable. I've always found people that were better than me and always willing to listen. And so it's been 24 years in the making of this process. And I've built 6 companies to some of the top spots you could ever achieve in those companies. I've done very, very well financially, not because I figured it out myself. It was because other people had figured it out. And all I had to do was copy their results and do what they asked me to do and not judge. If they said, hey, do this, I didn't go, well, what about if we do it this way? I was like, that's what you said, that's what I'll do. So for me, it's about matching and modeling. And I've done that my whole career to have the kind of success that I've had, Steve.
Wow. Well, thank you, man, for sharing that story. That's awesome. I didn't know a lot of few of those things about you, some of those companies that you're in, but it sounds like, it took some trial and error. Sounds like you went through the hard kind of school hard knocks. I think we've gone through. Yeah. So you didn't just come in, jump in, and all of a sudden become overnight success, like some people say. That didn't happen. No. And I got some key points out of that you learned from people that were already succeeding, and you just kind of modeled after what they were doing. So it sounds like
100%.
Yeah, awesome. Well, maybe tell us some of the success stories that you've had for yourself personally, like some of the achievements you've done. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I took, everyday person who wants to actually make that extra or that second chance or that ability to, really kind of take care of those bills or bill for that dream vacation or whatever it is they were looking for, maybe fire their boss. That company was tough. You had to be a real Marine and real dedicated. I mean, it was like whoever was in the office first, you didn't leave till there was nobody left. I mean, everybody, when you'd be there till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, because that was the game we were playing. And I knew that for most people, that's not really a life. So then I found, another company, and what I found was there was flexibility. And we were able to start out in that company and very, very quickly become one of the top execs in that company because I took the previous knowledge that I had. And from company to company, we were able to go faster and faster and faster until about 9 years ago. I had a really distinct privilege to work with someone who now is still my business partner. He's a doctor out of Southern California. that created a tremendous company with products that nobody has ever seen. And I went from a dead start to the top of the company in 30 days. And again, it wasn't because I was Superman and knew all this stuff. It was because it was gained knowledge over time that allowed me to work more efficiently and more effectively focused. And I think that, it's spaced repetition of learning, but it is consistent, steady effort to move forward when you're looking to make more money in a new career that's not something you've done your entire life. And so for me, it was laser focus, and I worked around the clock, but I knew that two things were possible. Number one, I could get to the top. Wasn't entirely sure how. I just had a big enough why. And the why was I didn't want to let my partner down to not get to the top. And I knew that if I could do it in 30 days, that would lend itself to having other people believe, well, if he did it, it's possible for me too. Not maybe in the time, but if there's somebody that got there already and it happened pretty quickly, I can do it too. So, I've been really fortunate to be at the top of that company. And then we negotiated, in that time though, Stephen, we've been, and again, I don't like to say this to brag, because it's not bragging. I've been really fortunate to make millions of dollars in the industry, because I learned a specialized skill and specialized knowledge about an industry that most people get wrong information about. They hear a bad story and they go, oh, that's just that. And it's what I've found is that people don't dislike my industry. They dislike the people in it, because the majority of them are not trained. And they vomit all over people stuff that just ruins it. And so I've been fortunate to do extremely well financially, and we're still looking to do better and better today. That company joined a much larger company. I kind of put that together. We were looking to go bigger with that company I worked with for 7 years, and we needed a bigger jet engine. We needed a 747 wide body that we wanted to go over, and we found that company. They were looking for what we wanted, for what we had. And we were looking for the right infrastructure, the right people that ran that company, the right people who had the right integrity with that company, and we found it. And so now we're continuing to grow, but we're on a bigger stage. And I know that where the future here for us is tremendous. But I tell you what, it's not all about money until you don't have any. And there's certainly a lot of people right now that are facing that. They maybe were doing okay in their career and never thought about a second income. Or maybe both parents were working. They never thought about, what's a home-based business I can get started in? Where could I find somebody that knows what it is that I want to do and just follow what they're doing? And, what's interesting right now, Stephen, is that more than ever in history, I believe people are looking for, okay, I've seen what's happened to our economy. It's shaken our ability to be flexible in our finances. We're having to cut back, not do things. And, that's why I say money is not everything until you don't have any. And then it's all you can think about. It's all you can focus on. And it just creates stress, creates agitation in the home, creates agitation in everything you do. And so I've been really fortunate to do really well. All that's really given me is choice. It's given me a choice to help when maybe I couldn't help in the past. It's been able for me to afford my mom being able to move, from where she was to where she is now, and get her a new car every so many years, a brand new car that she's never had, it's things like that. And people don't, they see somebody and they go, oh, well, easy for him. No, it wasn't easy for me because it's been 24 years. And, in my second company is where I started making some real money, but it's given me the ability to really help other people, do things and go places in the world and travel. And I have a bucket list. I still have a bucket list of places that I want to go. And it's allowed me to go to many of those places that I've always dreamt about, or you see on TV or you see in a magazine. And I was able to go out there and experience different cultures and experience different places and go to Africa and see the animals where they live, not in a zoo. And it's just the amazing things that the world has to offer. And if we can't ever get the financial game taken care of, we never get a chance to experience that. And it's sad, but it's true. But right now, I mean, we're just looking to help so many people say, listen, there are other alternatives. Get your job back if you can. But if you can't, then we have to start working on something that will give you complete control of your financial future, because that's what we've had.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate that. And you're right, man. It's encouraging to hear, you said you made millions of dollars, and I know you weren't boasting or anything of the sort. You're just telling the facts. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like when people don't make any money, they say, I'm broke. That's not boasting that they're broke. They're just stating the fact. And, it's encouraging because a lot of people in this industry, you're right, they get misinformation and they don't really know what's possible. And that's the key. What's possible? Does everyone make it? No. But does everyone make it in any industry? No, all real estate agents aren't wealthy. All investors in stock aren't wealthy. All franchise owners aren't wealthy. It doesn't matter. The industry, every industry, you have people that are succeeding because they put in the time, the effort, and the work. And then there's people that don't because they don't. Bottom line, it's real simple. And you
Absolutely.
went and did that for yourself. But I want to hear also about some of the success stories maybe you've had with some people that you've worked with. Maybe people that you've taken, in your hand and held their hand and you've walked with them and you've encouraged them through their disappointments or through their discouragement or their lack of confidence in themselves. And where are they now? So maybe if you could tell that story or two of those about some people that you've personally worked with that have, you've helped them achieve amazing results.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because there's nothing better for somebody who actually attains a skill, applies a skill, has success, and actually then go back and help somebody else go through the challenges that they go through, mostly mentally, on their belief that they can actually have more, do more, become more, serve more, whatever that is. And so it was, gosh, I'd have to go back to the early 2000s and met a young man who wasn't doing real well. He only had a high school education. And he was somebody that, was full of energy, full of life, but didn't believe that he deserved better, because he felt that because he was young and didn't have an education, that people would judge him for what you could read on a paper rather than the person who he was. And we were very, very fortunate to allow him to see the company we were in at that time, and little by little, because I made sure that he knew that I was there step by step by step by step. There was never a time where I said, "Hey, come on, work with me, and good luck. Let me know when you have somebody to talk to." It was like, okay, let's talk to these people. Here's what we should say. Here's what we need to do. Here's how we're going to invite them. And we would go through a process with all of those individuals. And in his first year, he made more money than he's ever made in his lifetime. In fact, I think more money than anybody in his family had ever made. And it was like, I think $60,000 his first year. And I just, what was interesting is that when you compare yourself to other people that are so much further ahead than you are, you're automatically putting a block in your psychology of what's possible, instead of comparing to where you came from, where you started, and how much further you are ahead. And, if somebody were to come in and compare themselves to me and say, well, in the gym, for example, well, I can't work out with you. You've been doing this for 35 years. I'm just getting started. If that's the attitude, then you never get started. You never move forward. And luckily enough, I was humble enough and made sure that this guy knew that I was his friend. We were partners, but we were friends. And, would eat together, would laugh together, would play games together. And I was there. And what I saw him start to believe is he's just like me. He's just further ahead. And so, in his second year, he cracked a six-figure income. And For many, many years beyond that, he did exceedingly well, to the point where I know he stayed in the industry. I left that company. He stayed there, became a $1 million earner. And he then went on to become another multi-million dollar earner in another company. And so it was just starting them, making sure that they had roots. You can't, somebody, if you were planting a garden or you're planting an apple tree and threw some apple seeds in the ground, if your friend said, making any money yet? Like the next day, you're like, what are you talking about? It's just seeds in the ground. I mean, I got to let the roots grow. Then the tree has to grow and mature before it's ever going to produce fruit. But yet, when it comes to a business where people maybe don't understand, it takes time. It takes the willingness to continue to move forward, even when you hear no, because most of us are conditioned to hear no, and oh my gosh, this isn't for me. And he went on to be a tremendous success, but that was, a young man. And then years later, when I had a chance to partner up with my doctor in Southern California, there was friends of mine that I had known from years earlier. And I knew them because they were in the industry at one point, and they had tremendous success in that company. But that company unfortunately shut down, and then they decided not to go into the industry again. And we hadn't talked, we really hadn't stayed in touch until I was making phone calls to people that I knew and wanted to share with them, there's a new company, ground floor, and they knew the doc. They knew the doctor, my partner. So they automatically lended credibility. And we started talking, and they said, well, and we kind of stayed away from it, but here's our situation. She was working as a server in a restaurant, and she's in her 40s. And not that that's a bad career, but it's bad to have it for a long time because it taxes the body. And she was having a lot of challenges with neck pain and all kinds of serious issues. And apparently their relationship wasn't really that great, husband and wife, because there was always that strain. And she was dealing with different personalities all day long as a server, and he was doing what he was doing with different personalities. And it just wasn't really like a family life that they wanted, I believe, had in mind, with kids at home. And they decided at the last minute to take a chance. And they did a product order that allowed them to get started in that company, that they could then start using the products. And it was little by little. We worked together constantly. I flew to their state every single month, and we would do events for 2 years. Every single month I flew there, and I'd stay for several days, would meet people, and would sit down, would share with people, I did my first presentation for them when they joined the business in someone's living room, and I was kind of foolish enough to wear a suit in someone's house. I was like, I think back to that, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? I mean, putting people like in their place, like I'm wearing a suit in someone's living room. I should have been like, let me take this jacket off at least. Let me roll up my cuffs on my sleeve. And, they got started. That was their very first presentation. They did to some folks that they knew. And, as we got to know each other more and more, they were really concerned that they weren't going to be able to send their son to college because they just said they had no resources. They had no funds. And as we started to work, and they eventually hit the same level that I was at in that company, they hit the top level. When they didn't know how they were going to do it, they were shooting for a pin level lower, and I said, no, we're going all the way to the top. They had enough momentum, I could see it. But the difference was twice as much. But they their mind was not ready for like, oh my God, we're going to produce twice as much in 30 days. How are we going to possibly do that? And we worked and we worked and we worked, and they hit the top spot. And a couple of years later, they were earning a very significant six-figure income. And they put enough money away to actually send their son to one of the top 5 private schools in the country, paid for it all, because of what they were able to do because of this industry. And they're still in the industry today. They're striving for new levels with what we're doing currently. They actually are still working with me today, even though we made a shift. We have a different company name, but we still have the same products we used to have. And they're still with me today. And they provide tremendous leadership to their team. They do tremendous things for not just within their team. They do it for the community of people that we work for. A true servant's attitude of how can I provide more value? And that's truly who they are. And they've never changed, and they're getting better and better and better. And I know that, we're just on a journey together in life to have more success and have fun and be able to travel the world. So those are two examples of people that someone I used to work with who obviously went off to do great things, and somebody who I still work with, but the driving force for them, that why was so important because they had to get their son to college. And good for them, they were able to do that.
Yeah, Mike, that's a great feeling. I know. I've helped so many people over the years, and you obviously helped a lot of people as well over the years. And it's just amazing to be able to change someone's life like that. The key sounds like they needed to be coachable and allow you to help them. And you sound like you put a system together to walk them step by step through the process. And that's pretty much it. That would be the same. Wouldn't that be the same at a job? If you go work at McDonald's, you have to go through a process. It's a system. No one just comes in McDonald's and just says, okay, I know how to make hamburgers. Even though you might be a professional hamburger maker at home on your own grill, when you go to McDonald's, they got a special way to make that hamburger taste like it tastes, right?
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
the system. That's all it is. It's the system. And that's why I think that people in this direct sales industry need to hear from people like you, because you've gone through that planting, watering, fertilizing of that tree. You've done big roots. You grew up to a tree, and then now you're producing massive fruit. And here's the cool part about producing fruit like that, like you mentioned in the apple tree, is that when that apple falls off, or when someone eats that apple and those seeds get left behind somewhere else, it produces more trees. And that's how it starts to germinate. And that sounds like what you've done all over the world. You've helped trees grow everywhere.
I have, Stephen, and it's, I love to definitely tell people that it's possible, because it's in your moments of decision that you can change the direction of where your future is going. It's a simple decision. I mean, you have to be willing to, once you jump in, burn the boats. When I jumped into my very first company years ago, I burned the boats. There was no me going back to try to find if I could still get a job. Not that jobs are bad, but I had made such a commitment mentally that I would absolutely figure this out and do whatever it took to make it happen, that it will happen. And fortunately today we have people that are working in 5 countries, but I reside in the USA. My team is developed into 5 different countries, and we have 30 more countries to go. So, but it's just knowing that you have to have a passion for what you desire out of life. And you have to be critically specific on what that is. And I think there's so many people that talk and think in generalities. Well, I'd like to make more money. Well, okay, here's $1. You made more money. That's how people think. They don't actually put an actual number on that paper or in their thought. They don't say, well, I'd like to travel. They don't say specifically where they'd want to travel. They say, well, it'd be nice. It's great if you can buy a new car. So it's, the people talk in such generalities today. They're not so specific that no wonder people end up kind of drifting off onto the rocks because they have no GPS. It's going to take them from one direction to another. But people like myself or people in the industry that have actually figured out that roadmap, you're absolutely right. We have a specific way to get them from where they are to wherever it is they want to be, because our goals are different. I know what your goals are to some degree, and you probably know what mine are to some degree, because we're big thinkers. We've been around it for so long, we can't help but to think huge. And where some people, it's like, if I could just make an extra $1,000 a month, man, I'd be doing phenomenal. And that's absolutely correct. And we will get them to their goal because we have a system that can get them there. And then once they get there, oftentimes they open up that mind and they go, well, if I can do this, I could probably get to 2. So, it's a tremendous learning, but it's also how we think. It's so important how we think.
Absolutely. I kind of say it like this: you got to take a person as far as they can see, and when they get there, they'll see further. So that's
That's
exactly
right.
right, man. You got to help those people see further. And I hope the people that are watching this right now are starting to see further than maybe you've seen up to this point, because there's a lot of people right now that are out of work, that do need an opportunity, that do need a way to be able to generate an income fast. In other words, what do I do next? How do I get from where I am? Because there might be someone right now that is successful already, and maybe they're already in a successful business. That's great. But there's a lot of people I can tell you right now that are watching this that are lost their job and kind of are their savings are going out. Their 401ks turned into a 101k. their bank account's getting short, and they're like, okay, I need to do something quick or else. There's probably a lot of people right now watching this and that are probably in that spot or about to be in that spot. So here's a question for you, Mike. I got a good one for you. Let's say you lost everything right now. You know, with the skill set you have the knowledge already, you have the skill set. But let's say you lost everything right now. You had no money, no bank account, no help, no credit. You know, all you had was your skill set. Step one, day one, what would you do? And for the next 30 days, what would you do to dig yourself out of a hole, to save yourself? What would you do?
Well, so all of my material possessions are gone, correct? Well, if I still have the acumen that I currently have, I have the knowledge that I currently have.
You have the internet. You have the internet.
Okay,
And you have
so
a computer. Yeah. You have
so I
a
have
cell phone and stuff
I
like
have
that.
my cell phone, right?
Yeah, you got
I
your
can search
basic.
anything
I
on
mean, you're
there.
not on the street. That's not what I mean. I mean, you still got your house and you still got your situation, but you just don't have any cash. You don't have any money. Maybe
Right.
a couple $100. You have your skill set and you have the knowledge in your head. What would you do?
I would first start to go onto the internet, and I wouldn't necessarily look for companies. I would look for leaders. I would look for people that have a presence maybe on YouTube that I know, and if I check them on Google, they have had tremendous success over a long period of time. I'd find somebody who was doing exceedingly well, probably in the same industry that I'm in currently, and I would call them. I would find a way to reach out to them through Facebook, through the internet, through whatever. You can find people, it doesn't matter, nobody can hide. I would find them, I would ask them what it would take, and then I would go to work. And even if I had no money, see, a lot of people think that money is the reason it stops them. Money is never the reason. It's not resources that people lack, or it's, that's not the reason why people have success or not. It's not resources. It's resourcefulness. It's, are you willing to find out how? I would probably find that leader and say, listen, this is what my experience has been. Will you work with me? I need 30 days and I'm going to burn the candle at both ends. And then if there was a way that, if there was a commitment that I needed to make financially, I would go to people that I know very close and I would ask to borrow the money and pay them back with interest. When people always say, well, I don't have the money. I know that's what the first flag that shows up for most people. I don't have the money. This should be a time where I'm saving and not spending. There's a difference between spending and going down to the store and buying yourself a Gucci belt, or investing in yourself that can produce more money than what you invested. Okay, huge difference there. But most people think, well, I can't afford it. Well, yes, you could, because here's what I know. If you went out to go to work tomorrow morning and all 4 tires were popped on your car, you'd find a way to buy 4 more tires because you have to get to work. So it's never a part of resources. It's resourcefulness. And how willing are you to actually get to where it is you want to go? And so I would absolutely find a leader that I could believe in, somebody who's already documented success. And I would say, you show me exactly what you do in this particular company, I will do exactly that, but I want you 24/7 because I will not stop until I get to where I need to where I have, some finances coming in. That's what I would do. But I would at first make that commitment to them if I knew I had a commitment from them. So it's like a push and pull. You can't push a rope. If this person was doing so well, they didn't want to help the newest guy, but if they saw the fire and the enthusiasm that I had about going into something that I've already had success at through unknown challenges, this is what's happened. but I'm going back in. I would do whatever it took because if I know that I have resourcefulness. I know that about me. There's been times where I'll give you a quick story. I had people coming in town. I was living in Southern California, and I had a kind of a cigarette style boat at the time, and go fast. And I had people coming into town specifically to come out on my boat. They were part of my team, and I was like, and a part broke in the engine. Well, everywhere I called didn't have it. I was like, I got to get this part. I have got to find this part. This has to be accomplished. Now, I had the guy, the mechanics that could put it on, but that wasn't I didn't know how to do that. And they're like, well, I had to find this part. So I went to a distributor that only ever worked with manufacturers. They never sold to the public, ever. And through my willingness to convince him that it was a part that I needed, because I was desperate, and I kind of made some fun doing it. He sold me the piece. He sold me the part. And so, it was not resources. It was resourcefulness. Was I willing to do everything I possibly could, even things that weren't supposed to be done, like going to a manufacturer that only sells to other manufacturers. Like they do not sell to the public. And I was able to convince that guy, hey, listen, I need this, and I'm sure you can help me out. Listen, I'll refer people to you. And it took, so that's what I would do. I would find somebody, and I would put everything I could into it and say, I'm not going to buy my excuses, because a lot of times we look at ourselves in the mirror and we want to believe the excuses we give ourselves. But you have to first start by saying, let's be really, really honest. Where am I financially? Where am I really? Not like I'm doing okay, things will be fine, it's all going to work out. No, where am I really? Let's start out with that truth first. And then you have to say, what am I willing to do to get to where I need to be? So that's what I would do.
Wow, that's great, man. That's a great story too. Getting that part, because you just made a decision. That's the bottom line is, when you make a decision, you're excited, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's all about belief. If people believe in you, they'll invest in you. They'll invest in your time. They'll invest in. That's who a leader, especially in the direct sales and network marketing industry, they don't care how much money you have. Matter of fact, some of the most successful were the brokest ones, the ones that had nothing. They just had a burning desire. They had to make it happen. Yeah, I got some stories like that too. I'll tell a little later, but I can tell you right now, that's what I would do too. What you said, go find someone that's successful and get under them and hold their tail and walk with them. And then do what you say you're going to do. Be a man or woman of integrity. And that's the key. That's what you're looking for all the time. So that's awesome. Man. Some phenomenal nuggets that people could actually use to help them, dig themselves out of the hole. Because that's it. No one's coming to give you a shovel. You got to have your own shovel. You got to do your own digging. That's all there is to it. All right. So I got one more last question for you. 3 questions, 3 points. What would be 3 specific things that you would tell someone that's watching this right now if they wanted to be successful in the direct sales industry? Let's say they considered this industry and this industry was something that may be for them. What 3 things would you do to tell them to do immediately? What would be the next 3 steps that you would recommend that you can give them so they could win big this year?
Well, Stephen, 3 that would come to mind is, number 1, you have to look at what your thoughts are. Because if you're looking to take on a new venture and your thoughts are, I'm not sure I can do that, I've never been able to do anything like this. People said I'll never have success, or whatever outside influence you have that's creating a negative mind thought, or things that you created as a belief. And beliefs can either be empowering or they can be disempowering. They can either create or they can destruct. You have to first figure out where your mind is. And once you make that decision, as we talked about, once you decide, okay, I'm doing this, there is no way back. You absolutely make the decision of, I have to do something to create more stability in my family, in my own personal finances. I have got to find ways to create stability, because one income is not enough today. There's Warren Buffett has a very powerful statement, and he says that in today's world, if you can't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And when I read that for the first time, all I could think was he's absolutely right, because the majority of people have nothing saved. When they get to 65, they have nothing saved. They have to continue to work. And so you need to, first of all, crush that disbelief that you can't absolutely get what you want. The second thing you have to do is write it down on paper. Absolutely, specifically, what you want to achieve. You have to specifically write down what you want to achieve with income that you make, with where you live, what you drive, how you eat, how you maintain your health, everything. How you treat your kids, how you treat your spouse, how would you treat your spouse if it was absolutely everything you wanted to do. That is critical and specific in great detail. And then on another list, you have to write down what you no longer will tolerate. You absolutely have to write a list of what you will not tolerate in your life to exist anymore. So maybe that's stress or that lack of, or people that are negative thinkers or negative talkers. And you know what? I've had to make some tough decisions in my life where I've had to cut people out of my life because they were so negative. I was like, I can't, I just can't. But it's okay. I found more people that were more positive. But you have to absolutely put a list together of what you will not tolerate in your life. Period. And, a lot of that could do not only just financially, that could be spiritually, could be mentally, could be physically. And, a lot of folks today are challenged with health. Well, sometimes people are challenged with weight. And when you absolutely say, I will not tolerate being this out of shape or this overweight or this unhealthy, believe me, that list is ever empowering, because now you have specifically every detail of what you want. And what you have specifically everything you will not tolerate. And the third thing was, you find somebody that will absolutely teach you and show you everything you need to do to have the success that you're looking for. Tell them why. Tell them what you want, and tell them what you won't tolerate anymore. Tell them your specifics. Give them the list. Give them a list of everything that you've ever wanted and how you want your life and how you want to create your life to be. And then give them a list of what you will not tolerate any longer. And tell them what your goal is, what your initial goal is, and make sure you have somebody you can match and you can model. Matching and model is critical. It will save you decades off of trying to get the kind of success that people like myself who have been around for 24 years in this industry have gotten, because I can show you in a matter of months how to far surpass anything I ever did in my first couple of months in this industry. But you have to be willing to be coachable. You have to be willing to be coachable. What your thinking has been to this point in your life has gotten you where you are. So in order for things to get better, you have to get better. In order for things in your life to change, you have to change. And in order for your thoughts to get better, your thoughts have to change. So if somebody gives you valuable information and shows you exactly what to do, tells you exactly how to do it, don't question them. Don't say, well, if they go left, you go left. If they go right, you go right. And that would be something that I would say. And then once you find that person, I think the critical thing is you take massive action. Massive action. Because if it's something you truly want, and you read that list, and I mean you read that list of everything and how your life you want, how the design you want to design the life you want to have, of everything you've ever wanted, and you read that list every single morning and every single night, your subconscious will start taking that list in, and it won't allow your thoughts to happen the way they normally do. And that list will also get you up out of bed early, because why not get a jump on everyone else? I never heard the late worm gets the late bird gets the worm. It's that early bird. That might be silly to say, but it's, success was never like, hey, wake up late and go to bed late. It was like, wake up, crack of dawn, and work until you faint if you have to, in building something that can pay you residually and can potentially make you money when you aren't actually specifically doing the work. But you have got to take massive action and do things that may sound crazy at times, what massive action looks like. I know a lot of people that built this career after their full-time career. They have a job they have to go to. They have to be there at 9. They get done at 5. They go home. They have dinner with their family. Then they work from 7 till 2 in the morning. They find a way, and you can find a way too. But I would say those are the most critical things that I could share with somebody that's looking to actually finally break free and create that freedom in life where you have choices to do the things you want to do, when you want to do them, and where you want to do them. So that's what this industry has given me. It's given me freedom of choice. And like I said, it's not all about the money. I mean, if you made $100,000 a month, $100,000 a year here, compared to $100,000 a year working in a job, it's so much different. You have freedom, you have flexibility. Take your kids to school, pick them up after school. Be that room dad that goes to school with your kids and gets to sit in a class for the day. You can have those things, but it's going to take massive action getting started. But don't let another day pass without you absolutely reaching out, finding that person you can work with, and make things happen.
Well, Mike, that's awesome, man, and I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. Those are some 3 major points there. Make a decision, write it down, and find someone to mentor with. Those are great bullets that someone can actually implement right now. But you know what? You said something very powerful. You talked about the mindset. And, I just want to throw this bullet question in there for you.
Sure.
Just a bullet question. Just, what do you feel why do you feel it's so important to manage their mindset to be successful? Just what's a good nugget for that one? What's a good reason why, if they want financial future, why do they got to manage this up here?
Because the old brain that most people have does everything to protect them and actually thinks more negative than positive. And I guess since I was a kid, even before I got into personal development, I always thought positive. And I know that I've had people say, why are you such a dreamer? That's not possible. You can't do that. When I was going for the Mr. USA competition, people were like, oh, nobody knows you. You're not going to win that show. But absolutely in my mind, I was dead set. I'm certain that I was going to win that show and I was going to do everything I possibly could do to get there. And the results proved for themselves there. The mindset is so critical because there's only 20% of whatever you do in life is the mechanics. 80% of it is mindset. If the mindset is not right and you have all the mechanics in the world, you won't have any success. It doesn't matter what it is. It does not matter what it is. I might have the mindset that, I'm going to go drive from here. I'm going to go to the Bahamas this weekend on my boat. But if I believe I won't get there and I don't set a GPS, I know for a fact I won't get there. So when people start into a new business or they want to go out there and they want to create more money in their life, but yet they have an old way of thinking, they need to start feeding the mind. There was an old mentor that I've listened to. His name is Jim Rohn. And he's one of the famous early teachers of mindset. He says, you always have to be a guard at the door of your mind. Be a guard at the door of your mind. You have to do that. Because there's so much negative out there. Like, I don't even watch the news anymore. I haven't for years. I'll pick up some bulletins here and there because what's on the news? It's positive. It's all negative. If you continue to you watch that, and you watch that at night, and you wake up the next day, and you wonder why you're in a bad mood. You just fed your mind a bunch of garbage. So start feeding your mind on positive things that can have a positive impact on your mindset. Because again, you could have the best mentor and you could take the actions, but if you constantly think, I'm not going to have success here, I don't know what I'm doing here, nobody's going to trust me, nobody's going to want to be in my business, no one's going to buy my stuff. I mean, it's kind of like a salesman that comes to your door and comes up to you and says, you wouldn't want to buy anything from me today, would you? I mean, that's mindset. But unfortunately, our old mind, our prehistoric mind, was designed to keep us safe and is going to think more negative than it ever does positive. So we have to stand guard at the door to our mind, and then we have to feed it with positive things. So there's a book I'll recommend, and Stephen, I'm sure you recommend this too. It's, well, actually 2 books. Number 1 is Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill. And he studies these people, the wealthiest people at the time around the world, and came up with certain things that they all had in common. It's called Think and Grow Rich. That's one of the very first books you ever read. I read it every year. You will win over and over again because you'll start to see that these successful people didn't do it by luck. They did it by following a system. And they all have something very systematic in their approach of how they achieve success. The other book would be How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, because you need to know certain skill set to win friends. How to be an influence, because the bigger the influence you can have in this life or in this world, the bigger impact you can have in your neighborhood, in your town, in your state, in your country. But you have got to learn how to be an influence, not be influenced by something that's going to be negative. So hopefully that answers your question, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. That answered my question, man. He also gave some great references, a couple great books there that people can pick up, because feeding the mind is like feeding the body. You know, you said you're a bodybuilder back in the day, and I'm sure you didn't eat hamburgers and pizza and tacos every day. not looking like a bodybuilder. You might look like a sumo wrestler, but not a bodybuilder. So yeah, Mike, so thank you very much for being here today. Thank you. I'm sure everyone that's been watching this today have gotten a lot of great nuggets. I'm sure the information you've heard today, if you apply it, not just hear it. It's one thing to hear this message and do nothing. If you do nothing with it, I can guarantee you in advance, I'm sure Mike would agree, that I can guarantee, I'll put money on it, you'll get no results from the information you're gonna learn, that you just learned today. But if you take the information and you apply it, and you do go find that mentor, you know, Mike's a great guy. Mike would be a great mentor, you know, or you know, you need to find the person that you resonate with that can help you accomplish your goals. And if that person is Mike, definitely you'll be able to communicate with them and contact them. Information will be right on the website that you can go and find out, you know, if Mike is available, because I know he's busy, got a packed schedule, going all over the place, but you know, he's a great guy to work with. So Mike, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for giving these great nuggets and pearls of wisdom that people right now desperately need to hear. I appreciate you, man. So we'll be back in touch real soon. I'll probably have you back on the show.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much. And I really appreciate the platform that you provide to people so that they can start to gain an edge and start to get knowledge that they didn't previously have. So thank you for the commitment you've put out there, being the mentor to the masses and doing all the things that you do for all your charitable things that I know that you do as well, because I think that when a person learns to give, even when they don't have, is when they'll receive the blessings that they never thought were possible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. And you guys have a fantastic day. We'll be talking soon.
Thanks so much, Stephen.
All right, bye-bye.